So we're to learn Lee Zeldin with us right now, the former New York gubernatorial candidate. Lee, I would imagine, as former congressman, you've been in and out of the White House many times. How does this happen?
Well, first off, for the record, I haven't been in the White House since long before this cocaine was placed and found there.
All right, so let me take you off that list.
Please do. Thank you. Most important. And I would say that for a lot of Americans, they've reached a point where they see investigations that get done, and then there's no information while the investigation is getting done. The people who are conducting the investigation say, well, we're in the middle of actively investigating, so we can't provide it. And then the investigation closes, and there's no real closure. So I think this is going to be frustrating for a whole lot of Americans who would like to know that there is a process at the White House where you're logging everybody in, you have people who are working there, you have cameras all over the place. You're going to be able to tell us something other than saying, well, the investigation pretty quickly concluded and there's just nothing we can do about it.
So a bag of cocaine is found. That's not like finding a bag of sugar donuts. So it would obviously be alarming. But I guess it's over. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that if there's a member of the Secret Service at a leadership level who might come onto Capitol Hill, whether it's a public hearing or it's a private briefing took place today, so there was some opportunity for some questions to get asked and answered. So maybe there might be more questions that get answered. Maybe there's another administration that comes in 2025 and they want to revisit it and they want to look more into it. But it's likely that there may not be a single person identified as being responsible.
Yeah, we'll never know, I guess. Let me ask you, you mentioned 2025 and a new administration could come in. We could have a whole new setup. Crime is getting to be a top issue in a lot of urban areas that are typically Democratic areas that maybe Republicans could make inroads. You damn well near pulled off the impossible, running in the bluest of blue states and almost tilting it Republican, very close. Crime was a big issue for you. It remains a big issue now. The latest survey shows 60% of New Yorkers are concerned it could happen to them. That's a little scary.
And it's real and it's personal. Sometimes when you do a poll, you're asking about something that doesn't really impact the life that much of the person you're talking to on the phone. But when a voter, when a New Yorker is saying that they fear that they might be the target of a crime attack, that could lead to them deciding that they want to leave the state. Yeah. On top of talking about what that means for crime and public safety, there's the economic impact. There are people who hit their breaking point and decide to flee. It's not just New York. It is in, as you pointed out, other cities across this entire country. And it's also impacting the suburbs. There are people who live in the suburbs of New York City who care about crime and public safety. Maybe they work in New York City. Maybe they like to travel into the city. They get their news from a media market that might be based inside of a city. What we saw in the 2022 election is that New York 1, New York 2, 3, 4, 17, 19, all of these congressional districts were all Republicans getting elected. A lot of these districts were districts that Joe Biden won, and crime was a big issue even in the suburbs. Yeah. So crime outside of Atlanta, crime outside of LA, it could also have a political impact in that dynamic. And the one other point I would say is there needs to be a debate over ideas. I mean, the push right now is cashless bail. New York has cashless bail. New York is the only state in the country where judges don't have discretion to weigh dangerousness, where we have prosecutors who are refusing to enforce laws. And there are other state capitals and there are other local municipalities that look at places like New York and say, hey, we need that here. That debate, wherever you are tuning into what's happening in places like New York or California, needs to be from that personal level of this local election that's coming up or this national election that's coming up might impact safety and security in my own community, in my own state house. Right. So this is very much a national conversation.
No doubt about it. One of the, I think, intriguing things you got before a lot of people wondering about why are people back in their buildings, and you had said, I don't want to misquote you, that it's not about the COVID, it's about the crime. It's about the skittishness of returning to what's a very different city and cities across the country, and that's not changed.
A lot of people have multiple reasons why they're hitting that breaking point. And there are, I mean, COVID policies were part of it. Some people started looking at the idea of freedom differently. There were people who had to return to a job as it was something that they loved, or maybe they were a nurse at a local hospital, and they're told you either get the COVID vaccine or you're fired. And the nurse is saying, well, I just had COVID 3 weeks ago, and I'm told, here's this Johns Hopkins study that says that if you don't have the COVID vaccine but you tested positive, that you have more coverage, protection, than if you don't get it and you get the shot. Cost of living, they're implementing congestion pricing right now inside of New York. That is something goes into full effect in 2024. So it's the cost and the crime. If you have to commute through the subway system, if you're walking the streets, if you just don't feel safe and you feel like you'll live freer, safer, and be more prosperous elsewhere, the New Yorker is leaving, and it's not putting the state in a timeout saying, hey, if you don't get your act together in 6 months, I'm not coming back. Every single day people are fleeing, and they're saying, I'm done.
Yeah, they're bolting now. Real quickly, I mean, do you have any horse in this race? Or you could support any one of the Republicans running?
So I believe that this is going to be a Donald Trump versus Joe Biden rematch.
You do.
And I will be supportive of Donald Trump
if
in
it's
that
not
rematch
Donald
against
Trump,
Joe
would
Biden.
you support any of the others?
I would.
Because some of the others say they wouldn't, if it was Donald Trump has not intimated if it's not him, whether he would support the others.
Yeah, no, I will support the Republican nominee. I would encourage the entire Republican field to approach this hopefully substantive debate with that goal in mind. We have to make sure that this is all about the future of our country and not about just personal pursuit of power.
What about you? What's your future?
We'll see. I started up a charity, Zeldin Cares, started up a company, a PAC. I've been doing speeches. I'm staying active.
A lot of people want you running for Senate.
Well, I'll tell you, Kirsten Gillibrand, that's a wasted Senate seat. And I might disagree with Senator Schumer on a lot, policy, rhetoric, and more. But I respect his work ethic. I would see him in my congressional district or my state Senate district before that a lot. In 12 years, between the state Senate and House, I only saw Kirsten Gillibrand in my district once.
Do you want to challenge her?
I think the way that Kirsten Gillibrand keeps talking, bring my name up, she's almost like willing this or wishing this into existence because she's trying to raise money. I got to tell you, this isn't something I'm spending time thinking about. I would add that New York in a presidential year is tougher than running in a midterm where you have a now popular, more Democratic president.
But you're thinking about it.
I haven't been spending much time thinking about it. And I think it would be a tougher road to hoe, but I do believe that it would be a benefit to New York and to this country if we did have someone different in that seat.
Well, you darn near pulled it off. So it's interesting to watch. So we'll watch it very closely. Lee, always good seeing you. Thank you.
Same here.
Very, very much. Lee Zeldin.